Do you people please? Like, honestly, are you a people pleaser? That's called the fawn response, right? Let's chat about it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's your girl, Lori, and today I want to talk to you about the fawn response. You're like, what? So, side note, there's the lawnmowers are going on around me, and I'm like, this is my scheduled time. So if you hear lawn mowing, that's what's happening. But yeah, so here's 4 different trauma. You may not know this, but there's 4 different trauma identifiers. So you have fight, which you guys know about fight. Like that's where you're like, oh my God, no. Flight, where you're like, I can't deal with it. Freeze, where you're like, I got nothing, I don't know what to do. And then there's the fawn response. So the fawn response is synonymous with people pleasing. And it's a really big one, right? Like, I think to some level, all of us want people to be good. You want people to be happy. You want them to not be miserable, basically. But here's what the reality is. People are only good as you are whole, meaning all these people that you're trying to please, you're walking around, you're trying to please all these people with a various amount of numbers of what it is that their expectations are, right? And so you're like, okay, I don't like the conflict. I don't like all of that. This is what's happening. I understand. But this is where the why beneath the why, and you've heard me say this to you guys before, is there's the why beneath the why. And a lot of times what you think that the initial reasoning is up here isn't really the reasoning at all. There's always a deeper issue. So when we're talking about the fawn response, it's where not only are you compromising, because compromise is good, is you're sacrificing all the time. And you're always like, okay, well, I can't say no, and I can't do this, and I can do that. So there's the why there. So this is where there's going to be some homework for you, where I want you to get a pad of paper, right? Any pad of paper, any kind of a tablet. And I want you to start writing down in the ways. It's going to take a minute, right? And it can be a little triggering and stressful. So if you feel yourself being stressed, just kind of step away from it and come back to it. But here's what I would love for you to do is you write down the ways of which you feel when you're helping people. You're like, well, I feel great. You do. But I also want you to write down how you feel when you feel as though it's not reciprocated. And this is another big sign for fawn responsor people. That's right. That's a word. Fawn responsor people. And that's where you're expecting you out of people. So in people pleasing, it's in the fawn response, it's tough, right? Because you're like, I want to help people. I want to help people. I mean, it would be nice. Like, I mean, I do this for them. Like, again, I didn't have this growing up as a kid or whenever this trauma started. So as you're writing things down, write down write down how you respond to people. You can put names, you don't have to put names, it's whatever. So you say, okay, I respond, like I always say yes to my sister. I always say no to this. I always say whatever it is, okay? Don't attach emotion to it. Don't overanalyze it. Don't think about it as you're writing it down. Just legitimately just put it on paper. So as you're writing it down, you're saying, okay, these are the things I do. Then in a separate column, different page, I want you to put the times that you feel as though your feelings have been hurt because people didn't respond to things the way you would like them to, the way that you would if they were in your position, right? So now let's say you have, and this may be dozens of papers, it's fine. So let's say on that same frame, you go, okay, got it. Okay, wow, I really see that I expect a lot out of me. And then you say, well, I mean, shouldn't it be a give and take? Yeah, of course. Like that's the whole idea with partnership is in theory, you want it to be 50-50. Let's keep it 100. It's not always going to be 50-50. Might be 90-10, might be 80-20, might be 70-30, so forth. And some days you might be pulling it all. But it's understanding you walking around pleasing all of these people is not pleasing yourself. And then you're expecting somebody else to, I guess, please you, make you feel whole, validate you, right? But they're not necessarily doing it expeditiously or the way you would do it, and you're okay with it. And then sometimes they may try and you go, ooh, don't compliment me. Don't do that. Because I don't know how to respond. Like, that's weird. Do I just say, yeah, cool? Or do I say thank you? Do I not believe it? In the fawn response, yes, it's a trauma response. Yes, it is. So it's understanding where the why is. Why do you feel the need to people please? Well, because you could say, well, I just want people to feel good. Valid. Why is that important to you? Well, because I don't want them to be sad. Again, valid. Why? Well, because I know what it's like to be sad. Now we're getting there, right? Now we're getting there. Okay, so I would say, now I would ask you to continue to challenge your thoughts, right? And go, why do I feel the need to make everybody else happy when I feel that I want to make sure that they don't feel those feelings, right? Like, why is that important to me? And a lot of times it's because you don't want to actually feel your own feelings, right? Like you're trying to prevent all of these other people from having their feelings. Like you don't, I mean, not having their feelings, but like, I don't want you to be sad. I don't want you to be sad. Excuse me. But when it's coming to yourself, a lot of the reasons why you're people pleasing is because you're outwardly looking. By looking at everybody else and taking care of everybody else, you don't really have to focus on yourself. And it might be foreign to you. So number one, keep in mind, that's okay. It's just the fawn response. You don't really have the direction and the tools. So that's where therapy will come into play. That's where life coaching, health coaching, meditation, mindfulness, journaling, double journaling, because you know you always write in 2 journals, not 1. Negative journal, positive journal. Data dump journal at night, giving yourself the process. But ultimately, it's going to be going back to save you. It's called shadow work. And we'll talk about this in maybe the next video or in a couple videos down the road, is we'll talk about shadow work. But shadow work is basically going in, healing your hurt child, because there's going to be a lot of times where the person or people that you want to be held accountable won't be. They may never be. They may never cop to it. They may never come to it. They may never apologize. They may never fix it. And you're holding out all of this hope, which is, again, people pleasing. When you're people pleasing, you don't really have to focus on this, right? You're just like, oh my God, I just want everybody to be good. And so that is the fawn response. And yeah, you know, very often you're the one that as you're walking around pleasing everybody, you feel very much like either not disrespected, maybe, but not really that, more like alone, more like, well, why am I not good enough? And this goes into the why. Well, what do you mean? Why do you think you're not good enough? Well, because I didn't think I was good enough when I was younger. Okay, so this is where we would start healing. So understand that if you're a fawn, and do let me know in the comments, honestly, let me know how you fawn. Where do you think that you're a fawner? And, you know, do you see other people around you as fawns, and understanding that they're fawns, it's not your job to repair them. It's your job to kind of just be there if they need it, if they need you. And understanding that, yes, as you start healing the traumas, the fawn response does start to wane and dissipate, but part of it can also be, now it's ingrained. Let's say you had some trauma when you were younger and you're 50. Well, that's going to be ingrained. That's now almost part of your personality. So it's about reformatting, reframing it, and understanding that there's nothing wrong with you. And we'll get in further, like if this kind of thing, like, you know, mental health and like life and stuff is your jam, consider subscribing to the channel. And I also have like my podcast, my TikToks, my Instagrams, like other platforms as well. But this is really the spot that I want to be able to have a little bit more of a long form video for you to be able to access and ask questions, right? So I'll have the forum open on YouTube, and if you can make comments down in the comment section on how you fawn and where you struggle and some other areas that you may want to work on, that would be great, because you sort of drive my content to give to you. So, but just remember, it's okay understanding that being a fawn is a trauma response. It can be worked through and learned to be walked hand in hand with, but you are important. And remember, you can't give 100% to everybody else if you're giving 0 to you. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Talk to you soon.